Hello MCU fans! Today we're going to talk about the fact that the Marvel Cinematic Universe Wiki has updated the timeline placement for the Runaways show, and in particular, we'll discuss why it is so important. And while we're at it, we'll also talk about the Cloak and Dagger timeline and how it fits in with Runaways, and hey, for free, we'll throw in Helstrom, and that means this will replace my previous Hulu and Freeform timeline placement. Now, I'm going to try to avoid any spoilers for the show, but I will be discussing plot points that involve the timeline. But as long as you're okay with that, then let's dive right in and see what we can find out. Don't forget, we have a February contest running all month long. Be a subscriber, leave a comment. You could win a book or a steelbook. Best of luck. And here are the January contest winners, which I also announced in my last video. If your name is here, go to the About section of my page and reach out to me on Discord or email, and I'll get your prize right away. And then also we have a membership option with lots of cool perks, so you might check it out in case you're interested. All right, so what exactly happened with the timeline placement? Well, notice on this Marvel Cinematic Universe Wiki page that they proposed and then ultimately decided to move the Runaways timeline to a time frame of October 2017 to May of 2018. So what did it used to be? It used to be December of 2017 to August of 2018. Why is that important? Well, August of 2018 would put it after this, right? It would put it after the snap, which the world continued on. I mean, half the people were gone, but the world did continue on, but it was chaos. And we're going to see that at the end of Runaways, where it would be after the snap, it ain't chaos. So it's always been a little weird to have it going after the snap. In fact, this guy would agree. That's Jeff Loeb, who used to be the head of Marvel TV, and at SDCC 2018, he said that the stories you're seeing, unless otherwise noted, all happened before the Thanos snap, and will continue to be in that place until we find out what happens in Avengers 4. Notice he didn't even know the name of Avengers 4 yet, because what we don't want to do is tell a story, and then in Avengers 4, something else happens. And in fact, he even took to Reddit to stress the point, because he said, for the most part, our stories will take place before Thanos clicked his fingers. A lot of that has to do with production and when we're telling our stories versus when the movies come out. So it really seems clear that it shouldn't be after the snap. So, does it really matter though what the wiki says? I mean, does anybody really look at the wiki? Well, you tell me, right? Because IMDb, who has an MCU chronological order, notice what they said. Runaways goes from December to August, the exact placements the wiki had. I'm going to guess IMDb pulled that information from the wiki, which they should. The wiki is the best source for all the information on the timeline. And Digital Spy, who has, I might say, a very impressive chronological order to watch the movies and shows. And notice, Runaways Season 3 seems to take place post-snap mostly. So yeah, people are looking at what the wiki says, so this timeline placement move is very, very important, and I'm hoping these other websites update to now look at what the wiki has done. All right, so one last thing I want to say, because this is just such an important topic. Kevin Feige himself confirmed that the Marvel TV shows prior to Disney Plus are canon. There's a video, you can go check it out yourself if you're interested, October 29th of 2014. He was asked the question, is there room for the Defenders to show up on the big screen in the Infinity War movie? And his answer was, there are a lot of people in the movies in Infinity War. And then he goes on, eventually, to say, a lot of those things inhabit, however far in the outskirts, the same continuity, so certainly that opportunity exists. So the fact that he's saying they're all in the same continuity means they're all canon, right? Well, there's a problem. Of all of the shows which came out before Disney Plus, which here's the entire list of them, of course Hitmonkey got another season eventually, but this is before Disney Plus, only 6 of them, the Netflix shows, show up on the Disney Plus timeline. So I don't know what Marvel's trying to tell us, but it is weird they're not on the timeline. So that's why I'm putting the main MCU over on the left, and I'll be doing the timeline for Cloak and Dagger, Runaways, and Helstrom over on the right. Hopefully Marvel will eventually put them all on the Disney Plus timeline, and then I'll connect everything together. But okay, so when does Cloak and Dagger Season 1 take place? Well, actually, they give us a huge timeline hint because the main storyline happens during Mardi Gras, which of course is in February. Okay, awesome. So we know it's February, but what is the year? Well, actually, they don't give us the year at all, like even in Season 1 or Season 2. Drat. But all is not lost, because the actress that plays Detective Bridget O'Reilly gave us some very helpful information. Bridget O'Reilly was a detective who used to work in Harlem before eventually deciding to move down and work in New Orleans. And of course, that's the setting of the Cloak and Dagger series. And we learn that episode 1 is one of O'Reilly's first cases in New Orleans. Now, she gave us this information in a video, but of course the video is no longer available, so I'm sorry I can't prove to you that she said this. However, the series does give us most of this helpful information because in episode 8, she says, "I'm from New York. I've seen it before. Did I ever tell you about my friend Misty?" And then on the flip side, Misty references her. Because in Defenders Season 1, Episode 8, we see that Misty is injured. Now, she's saying it's not your fault, it's just the job. She's not talking to Bridget here. She's actually talking to Colleen. But the key is she's injured, right? And then when she comes back to work again in Luke Cage Season 2, Episode 8, she now learns that Bridget left. Because she's told Callahan's in Maui and O'Reilly, Bridget O'Reilly, moved to New Orleans. I love that. That's really cool how both series, Luke Cage and Cloak and Dagger, reference each other. But here's the key. That means when Misty was injured, she didn't know O'Reilly left. But when she came back to work, she did find out. So that means O'Reilly must have left between the point of her injury to when she came back to work. So sometime between May of 2016 and August of 2017. And the only time that February, remember, Mardi Gras, fits in there would be February of 2017. Man, they made that tricky. But because of all these references and cross-references, we were able to make it work. Also, it is worth noting that episode 10 of Season 1 has to be after Iron Fist Season 1 because of this dialogue. In this day and age, you need to keep up with the Joneses as well as the Starks and the Rands. Now, he would not be referring to Rand unless Danny Rand had already come back to work at his company, which he did in February to March of 2016. So once again, it's got to be in 2017 because that's the only way that February works. So that means that we can place Cloak and Dagger Season 1 in February to March of 2017 because it does bleed just a little bit into March. All right, good news is Season 2 is much easier. They tell us everything we need to know. Number 1, they mention that the end of Season 1 was 8 months ago. They talk about around the time the city went crazy, which was Season 1, so like 8 months ago? Okay, great. So there's 8 months between Season 1 and Season 2. We also see in Episode 3 that they mention something happening at the end of Season 1 as 242 days ago, which you can do the math. That's 8 months, a little over 8 months. And then at the end of Season 2, Episode 10, Tyrone says he moved out of the church, which was the end of Season 1, 9 months ago. So that means Season 2 spans over a couple months. So we can therefore say that Season 2 is October to December of 2017. And of course, that makes Jeff Loeb really happy, right? Because it's before the blip. So that's awesome. We're going to see, though, that the Runaways had a problem, which has now been fixed. All right, so Jeff, we're done with you for now, but you'll be back, I promise. All right, so also worth noting that Cloak and Dagger Season 2, Episode 10 actually has an Easter egg for the plot of Runaways Season 1. Because Bridget said that a bunch of girls were found dead on a beach. And actually, that is something that happens in Season 1 of Runaways. So that's really cool how they basically kind of tie into each other. All right, so speaking of, let's talk about Runaways Season number 1. So I promise this will make sense by the time we get done. But in Season 3, Episode 10, they go back to the day before the start of Season 1. Crazy, right? Time travel, it's going to get crazy. Anyway, notice over on the right are 2 posters, which if we blow them up a bit, you can see an October date for the book fair and Saturday Oct, which is obviously October, for the pancake fundraiser. Okay, that really makes it clear, right? It's got to be October. Well, we're going to see why the wiki didn't originally place it in October because there's some weird stuff going on here that we just kind of have to work through. Okay, so the next important thing is we see in Season 1, Episode 1 that Alex is playing Star Wars Battlefront. And we see that his sister Amy hadn't logged on in 2 years. Okay, so when did Battlefront come out? It came out November 17th of 2015. So that would mean we've got to be at least November of 2017, right? Well, not necessarily, because there actually was a beta for Star Wars Battlefront, and it came out in October of 2015. So we could actually be as early as October of 2017. Keep that in mind. Okay, so then in Episode 2, we learn that Chase is going off to college next year. So that means, number 1, they're seniors, and number 2, they have to be in the first semester of their senior year because he's saying college is next year. So we can't be any later than December of 2017. So we're really narrowing this down. Now this gets crazy. In Episode 2, we see Leslie's computer indicates that today is Friday the 8th. So on the surface, it seems like, oh, we've nailed it, right? Because there is a Friday, December 8th of 2017. Touchdown, score, we're done, right? Okay, but hold on, because it's about to get crazy. Because the calendar, once they start tabbing through the days, continues to say today. So clearly, they just messed this graphic up, because now we don't know whether the 8th really was today or not. Plus, if this was December, the previous month, November, would not have 31 days. And oh, there's this weird thing with multiple 29s. What is going on with this calendar? Like, how did this make it past the edit? And by the way, I didn't zoom in on this. It's literally this big on the screen in the episode. I've never seen such a nasty looking calendar in my life. So the wiki has decided totally ignore this calendar. They cannot rely on December being accurate because the whole calendar's a mess, right? But speaking of calendars, we do have some helpful information in episode 4 because Jeffrey Wilder has a newly bought 2018 planner, meaning, yeah, we're still in 2017. All right, that's great. Then episode 7 includes a flashback to 25 years ago, and in particular, they're talking about, like, dude, have you seen Reservoir Dogs yet? It's so good. Well, Reservoir Dogs came out in 1992. Add the 25 years, we get to 2017, and we're just sometime after October. But actually, it would seem like we're probably in October because, of course, they would be talking about a newly released movie, which, by the way, it is a fantastic movie. So in episode 7, we see that they have not yet applied for college. They're working on the essays for college applications, meaning they're in the first semester of their senior year. All right, so then this is kind of confusing. In episode 11, they have a non-holiday specific seasonal dance. So naturally, the wiki originally assumed, oh, we got to be in December because typically, a Christmas dance, they don't want to call it that. Instead, they call it a non-holiday specific seasonal dance. But really, because it's non-holiday specific, it could be any time. It could be any point in time. So this doesn't necessarily mean it has to be December, and that's really important to note. Then we do get a couple clues on how long the season lasted, because notice they say it lasted for weeks. They've been lying to you for weeks. They've been conspiring against you for weeks. So basically, season 1 is only taking place over no more than 2 weeks. All right, so where does that leave us with our timeline placement for season 1? Well, originally the wiki went with December of 2017 because it looked at things like the November release of Star Wars Battlefront, that whacked out calendar that seemed to indicate December, and of course the non-seasonal dance. But really, you could easily go with October of 2017 because of the beta release of Star Wars Battlefront and the 25 years ago release of Reservoir Dogs, which was in October. So that's why the wiki went with October of 2017, and we're going to see how that really helps as we get to season 3. But first, we got to talk season 2. Luckily, this one is really easy. So, season 2 starts 24 hours after season 1 ends. That's perfect. So it starts immediately after season 1. And Nico references that season 1 events started 2 months ago. She says 2 months ago, our biggest issue was that there were no vegan options. Nice. All right, so that's enough for us to really nail this down. Originally, the wiki went with December to just heading into February a little bit of 2018, but now we can connect to October from season 1, and it spans over 2 months. So we go into November of 2017. And this is what really helps us as we get to season 3. All right, so we see that season 3 picks up just 36 hours after the season 2 finale. Notice they're talking about something happening just 36 hours ago, and that was the end of season 2. We also see that they are in the dark dimension. I'm not going to talk about why. You'll have to watch if you want to know why, because that would be spoilers. But anyway, they are there for 6 months. We've been gone for 6 months. And they repeat this a lot. Alex was religious about backing up his data, and notice he hasn't backed it up for 6 months. And Dale confirms it's been 6 months because he says he's been living off the grid for 189 days. Again, you can do that math. 6 months. But this is actually the trickiest piece to place in the timeline. So they say that we did miss a lot the last 6 months: graduation, prom, summer jobs. So if you look at that list, that makes you think we've got to be well into summer if they've literally missed summer jobs. But the wiki has a very good point. First of all, graduation and prom are usually around or before May 23rd, but even if graduation hasn't happened yet, the senior runaways wouldn't be able to graduate anyway, right? They missed 6 months. So graduation, prom, that's out. But it also may be too late to plan and apply for summer jobs for high school students by this point. Because I can tell you firsthand, it is very competitive to get those summer high school jobs. So, okay, this means they don't have to be in the summer, and in fact, they actually can still be during the school year. So, what does that mean for this placement? It means that previously the wiki had it from February to August of 2018, and that's because season 2 ended in February. But now with it ending in November, we can make this guy happy. Jeff Loeb's back again. He wants to see it shift to November 2017 to May of 2018, which means we are before Infinity War. Whew, mission accomplished. So the bottom line is the entire timeline for Runaways 1 through 3 shifted back about 2.5 months-ish. And that allowed us to be before Infinity War. Huge, huge deal. And yes, Mr. Loeb is very happy. Okay, one last thing just to quickly point out. Season 3, Episode 8 is the Cloak and Dagger crossover episode, which is awesome. So that means now we can add this line in because the two shows did indeed connect. Oh, I said it was the last thing though, didn't I? No, we have to look at Episode 10, which does have some time travel. This gets wacky. All right, so Episode 10 opens with Chase on June 14th of 2028. So, okay, we can add that in. That's easy. June of 2028. And this is actually the farthest in the future that we've seen anything in the MCU, leaving at least the TVA and stuff out. Crazy. Okay, then Chase goes back in time 3 years since Season 3, Episode 9, because here we see them talking about, is it because of today, the anniversary? 3 years, isn't it? So this is literally exactly 3 years since Season 3, Episode 9. And this is one of the reasons why the new timeline placement really helped. Because notice, they're in school. In fact, they're saying, we're really going to miss you when you graduate, Molly. So they're in school. But the original placement would have had us in August of 2021. Because remember, Season 3 ended in August. Now, however, it ends in May. So that works perfectly with that scene of them still being in school. Oh, but they're not done time traveling yet. No, instead, they're now going to go back to just before Season 1, Episode 1. In fact, remember I talked about this. That's where we saw those October dates on the wall. So they're going to go back to just before the beginning of Season 1. And this is what's a little crazy. The Runaways are told not to interact with their past selves. And the reason is we have no idea what type of time paradox that would create. So obviously they're not creating branches like in Endgame, but it is worth noting, we have seen so many different types of time travel. I mean, we've seen rewinding time, we've seen closed loops, we have Cable's machine, we have the craziness in Days of Future Past. Time travel just hurts my head. So I guess Chase has come up with some way to do time travel that doesn't create branches and is more like Back to the Future. All right, sure, we'll let it go. At this point, just please, everybody stop traveling in time. That would be wonderful. Anyway, so they go back to the beginning of Season 1, so that would have been December of 2017, but now it's October of 2017. All right, great. Are we please done yet? No, unfortunately, they're not done, and they now have to go back to basically redo Season 3, Episode 9. In fact, there's things going on in parallel. There are basically two sets of them at the same time, and they're told, when you're done, your lives you have right now, they will be erased. So again, Back to the Future logic. But okay, so no problem. Now they're going to go to the end of basically Season 3, which would have been August, and now it is May. So, oh my word. Crazy, right? But that is the new timeline, all the adjustments. So that's all been updated on the wiki. And yes, that means at least the majority, other than some of the crazy time travel, is happening before Infinity War and the snap. Love it. All right, so briefly, let's talk about Helstrom. There's not too much to this one. It is worth mentioning up front, though, that it does not seem to be canon. In fact, the producer himself said we are not tied to the MCU. We are our own separate thing. But for the minute, let's just assume it is in the MCU and where it would be placed if it were. All right, so we do see them discussing a case from 20 years ago, and that case was dated October 15th of 2000. So that seems to place us in October of 2020. Also, we do see that there is some pain meds that have an expiration date of 3/18 of 21. Now you may wonder, where did I get this from? This is actually one of the props, because they sold off a lot of the props. And it's always tricky trying to rely on a prop to see if it's really accurate, but nonetheless, it fits really well with that newspaper article. So everything seems to be indicating in October of 2020. And then also, this is kind of helpful too. There's a newspaper, which if you can read this, you got better eyes than me, so we'll zoom in a bit here. But they mention U.S. diplomats arranged a briefing last week with outside experts who warned the president that trade tensions could imperil the economy and hurt his re-election bid. So that means that this series is happening basically right before an election, which is perfect for an October of 2020 date. It's also worth noting there's a nice little Easter egg in here for the Sokovia Accords, so that's kind of fun. It's the only thing in Helstrom that references anything in the MCU, but blink and you miss it, but still, Sokovia Accords gets a nice call out. All right, so that means we're going to place Helstrom in October of 2020. Now that does mean it occurs after the snap, but that's really not an issue for the series. The series doesn't reference anything in the MCU, so it's fine if it happens after the snap. So there you go. That is the new and revised timeline for the Hulu and Freeform shows. Now, I have updated my Googlesheet Timeline document. You probably remember that's sorted by timeline month, but you can also sort it by release by going up and choosing the sort order. And you can filter. And if you filter, one of the options is Hulu Freeform. And sure enough, there are our Hulu Freeform shows with the new and improved dates. So let me know your thoughts. Do you like this new timeline placement? I love it. I think the wiki nailed it. So don't forget, February contest, be a subscriber, leave a comment, win a book or a steelbook. And we have the membership option in case you're interested in that. And then I always love to mention the Discord. Here we are talking about those updates to the Marvel Cinematic Universe Wiki. We have 1,900 members across the globe, conversations 24/7, and I will leave a pinned comment so you can join. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, the ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.